head, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the Fish Report, hanging at the Fish Report, hanging at the Fish Report. You got Craig and TK and Heather D tuned in at the Fish Report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Welcome, everyone, to another Fish Report Live. The whole gang's here. My name's Craig Fissinger. That's Ken Francis. TK and Heavy D, you know where they're at. They're back in the sound room. And Ken, it's finally bowl weather. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm going to fight through it tonight. And we're going to be talking some softball, talking some baseball, and got a former Fish Report Live guest on and a new one tonight, too, don't we?
Absolutely, Craig. Can't wait to talk a lot of softball tonight, a lot of high school baseball, Craig. It's going to be a fun night, as always. I know you're a little under the weather there. Me and TK and Heavy D will pick up the slack for you.
Good deal.
But, yeah, looking forward. We're going over to Fort Loramie tonight to talk to the head coach of the Lady Redskins softball team over there, Brad Turner. He's been very successful since taking over the program at Fort Loramie. He's won several county championships, so he's done a great job. And then, Craig, we're going over to talk to Brian Harlamert. Brian's the head coach of the Coldwater Cavaliers. Craig, he's in his 17th season over there. They got the top team in the MAC this year. They're ranked number 1 in the state. And, Craig, the tradition of Coldwater baseball, they just kind of go hand in hand. And, again, Brian's got a great team over there. And, he could be the team to beat in Division III baseball this year.
Yeah, can't wait to talk about all that. But before we get to that, do have to get to that weekly trivia question. Last week you asked me a track question. This week you're going to ask me a
baseball question, Craig.
Right.
And speaking of Brian Harlamert, and speaking of baseball, my question, Brian Harlamert was a Coldwater alumni, Craig. He is also a University of Dayton Hall of Fame member. He played baseball at the University of Dayton, still holds several career records, including games played, career RBIs, Craig, and he's also second on the home run list. He hit 38 career home runs while at the University of Dayton. Interestingly, he's behind a guy by the name of Brooks Vogel. Where did Brooks Vogel graduate from?
And my choices are
Minster, West Liberty Salem, Coldwater, or New Knoxville.
All right. Now,
so it's a local school.
When you told me you were going to ask me this question, I think you're trying to trick me. I think you know what I want to say, but I think you might know what you know. So anyway,
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, his name's Brooks Vogel. And again, your options are Minster, West Liberty Salem, Coldwater, or New Knoxville.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm going to answer, so I think you're trying to trick me. But anyway, I'm going to need some help from the viewers on this one. So I'm going to send that out on Twitter, and I'm also going to, if you can help me out, if you're watching this on the Fish Report Live page, answer that trivia question on the page, and we'll check those answers out by the end of the show. Okay?
That works.
All right. Well, let's get things started. We're going to talk a little softball. And Ken, when you talk about SCAL softball, Fort Loramie kind of has been the team to look up to the last several years in SCAL softball, haven't they?
Absolutely, Craig. Fort Loramie's won 3 consecutive league titles. They've had the Player of the Year last year. The last several years, they've had the Shelby County League Player of the Year. They returned 8 letter winners this year, Craig. They're the only team in the league, interestingly, to field a junior varsity softball team, which really builds the program up for the future years. They're currently sitting at 4-1 in the SCAL, and their only loss being to the Rockets of Anna. So, once again, Coach Brad Turner's got them off to a fantastic start of ladies softball at Fort Loramie.
Yeah, I got a chance to stop in there just tonight and talk to him. I actually had an indoor practice. We'll explain what that's all about here in just a second, but let's check out the interview. Fish Report Live here at Fort Loramie High School with Redskins head softball coach Brad Turner. And Coach, your team's off to a nice start this year. You're 9-4 right now, including a big win Tuesday night over at Fort Recovery, a game in which you guys won 21-5. Now, you're a teacher here at the school, so you're used to handing out grades. I want you to hand out a grade to your team. How do you think you're doing this year?
As a teacher, I think if I was to look at the group as a whole and how our season's progressed so far, I'd say a solid B. 9-4 record. That's great. We've had some quality wins over some good opponents, but definitely not quite an A. Some shortcomings along the way, and that's that's part of the learning process, and hopefully we can get things turned around to get that grade up a little bit. There's always the final exam to be prepared for, and hopefully we can, continue moving in the right direction and keep getting some wins for us.
Well, every time I look in the paper, it looks like someone different's doing it for you, whether it's Janelle Hoying or Darian Rose or Tony Burning. I could go on. But do you have any one big star in this team, or are you just that balanced?
Definitely, we are a balanced team. Like any small school, you're going to have players that you look to capitalize on opportunities and do certain things for you. And Janelle Hoying has been the player that's been able to do it so far. And Darian Rose, as far as star power goes, I think everyone in the area recognize that name, and she can do it on the softball field. But we have had contributions from a number of different girls all throughout the lineup. We've had Taylor Timmerman and Jerica Holthouse have been down on their bottom third of the lineup, and they've come through for us in big games. And looking at the stat sheets, they're right there with the top of the lineup. So we've got to be balanced, and we've been getting those contributions throughout. And if we're going to continue to do anything throughout the year, we're going to have to continue to have that balance.
Okay, now you have Walpock coming up on Thursday night. They're a Division II team from the Western Buckeye League. Matter of fact, they got their first loss of the season just this past Saturday against Napoleon. They have a girl by the name of Renee Lovett. Pretty much does it all. She pitches, she hits. What are you looking for from your Redskins on Thursday night?
Just to compete. We played Walpock last year for the first time. We both had open dates after some earlier season rainouts and cancellations, and we were able to get together. We went up there and we played them to a 2-0 loss. And we had Paige Ordine pitching for us to kind of keep us in the game and kind of balance things out maybe a little bit. The Lovett girl did come in to kind of close the deal for him, and we did see her. She throws hard, and they're a good team, and I'm glad we get to play competition like that. We need that, and I don't know if we'll see her as a pitcher. We'll try to prepare as best we can, try to get the bats a little quicker, and hopefully what we get out of it is a good competitive game for us to compete and hang around long enough and maybe eke out a win some way somehow. So just to compete.
All right, and you got the Redskin Invitational coming up this Saturday. Always a fun event. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 3 years now. Baseball's been having their Invitational for over 20, and I approached the administration a couple years back to see if we could do it on the same day, and it's worked out good. I always think it's a good idea to provide opportunities for the girls to make something a little special. Especially this time of year, we're getting closer to tournament. Kind of have that tournament atmosphere going. So we've got some good teams coming in. Versailles is coming back. They won it last year. Pick was coming in for the first time. So they're coming right in down the road. And then the fourth team coming in, rounding out the invitation, will be Dayton Dunbar. And we had a hard time finding a fourth team. A lot of proms are on Saturday, and a lot of schedules were already full. And in an email blast, we got a reply from Dunbar, and come to find out they're in their second year of softball. They've obviously been around a long time, and basketball is what they're kind of known for. But had some communication with their coach. Jane Landis is her name. She lives in Versailles, so kind of a local connection. So she's even commented how she's looking forward to bringing the girls to country living, and we'll see what small town hospitality is all about. So
a couple Division III teams and a Division I team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Pick was D1, and then Versailles and Dunbar are both D3. So yeah, just different teams. Been providing opportunity to play some different opponents and hopefully have fun. Good weather forecast, so hopefully be a good day of ball.
All right, one last question, Coach. Last week on our show, we talked to Houston coach Brent New. He's been around a little while, and we were talking about the SCAL, and he said how it's getting better, making strides, but as a whole, he thought maybe a step behind the OHC and the CCC as far as being competitive. Wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I listened in to Coach New's interview, and I think he hit the nail right on the head. Cross County Conference, they are better. I mean, you can't say anything but they've represented the Southwest region in the state tournament the last several years, with Covington having done it 3 times, I believe, and Sonia's been there, and Newton's won it. But they've got girls that play ball well beyond the spring season, and softball is their sport, and that's the difference. Small school. They are all small schools. We're a small school. we share our athletes, and you know, a lot of the girls they play basketball, they play volleyball, they play JO, they play AAU, and you know, we try to squeeze in some softball, and I'm thrilled with the effort that we get. But yeah, we're a little bit lagging behind, but like Coach New said, I think that gap's closing a little bit. I'm pleased with the direction we've gotten things going the last couple of years, and you know, Houston's been right there, and we just got knocked off by Anna. Had a heck of a game with Rushi as well earlier this season. So that competition hopefully will make everybody better, and you know, hopefully, you know, we'll be on that same level here coming up within the next season, 2 or 3. Yeah.
All right, and that was the head coach of the Fort Loramie Redskins, Brad Turner. You'll notice we did that interview indoors, and that's because Brad said he actually wanted to do a practice indoors tonight. I wanted to work on some drills. He said every once in a while it's not just nice to kind of get back to the basics and focus on the fundamentals. So I do want to go back to the sound room now and talk to TK real quick. I know you got a note on that Fort Recovery game last night. What do you got?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of an update. As Coach mentioned there, one of the stars, and the name we hear a lot is Darian Rose. She had a record-breaking game the other night, and not just a basketball star, but yeah, a softball star as well. She broke a record at Fort Loramie. She went 2 for 5. She had 3 RBIs and scored 4 runs. Those 4 runs put her at a total of 103 runs as a career softball player at Fort Loramie, breaking the previous record of 99, which was set way back in 2011 by Tessa Bainanzer. And as everybody knows, we still got some more softball to play, so I think she's probably going to build on that record. And we'll hear a little bit more about her. So I'm just glad she can't run track while she plays softball, or she'd be out there setting records in that somewhere too.
All right, I think she actually got the pitch the complete game in that game and picked up the win as well. So.
Doesn't surprise me none.
No. Well, listen, we talked to Coach Turner about that invitational on Saturday, and I always like those invitationals. Like he said, it kind of gives you the tournament atmosphere. Rushi played in one of those same kind of tournaments last Saturday at Bradford. Actually, they got one coming up again this weekend, don't they?
Yeah, they do, Craig. The Rushi ladies softball team, Coach Baker's team, is going to be heading over to Minster for the Katie Horseman Classic on Friday night. You know, Katie, Mrs. Horseman, was a great player herself back in the day. Craig, she's a professional Lady Hall of Fame baseball player. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot of excitement over there in Minster. Some good competition, too. Rushi will be taking on a Minster team that is loaded this year. And, you know, I think I've seen they've just got 1 loss this year. So that'll be a great challenge for the Rushi Raiders. And the other game will be Bradford, a team that Coach Turner talked about just a little bit ago, out of the tough CCC playing Riverside, who is also very good in softball. So 4 really good softball teams over there at Minster Friday night. And, you know, it's supposed to be a beautiful evening and a great night to go over and watch ladies softball.
Yeah, I seen Minster actually just beat Covington tonight. We know how good they are, so it's going to be a heck of a battle for the Raiders.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our softball talk. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk some baseball, including that big interview with the state's coach, or the number 1 Division III team in the state, their coach. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
My baby finally gave up on me. I can't say that I'll blame her. She just got tired of playing losing games. I should suck on my pride and beg that girl to come back home. Deep down I know she's better off, 'cause fools like me are meant to die alone. Someone give me one good reason, one good reason to smile. I'm trying to be that guy my mother prayed that I would be. Some days I feel just stumble from time to time. Oh, my mother knows I'm trying to be that guy.
All right, welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live, everyone. Before the break, we were talking some softball. Now we're going to talk some baseball. And Ken, we haven't talked any MAC baseball yet this year, so looking forward to talking about that. Let's check out the standings and see how they're sitting right now in the MAC.
Well, Craig, like we said earlier, Coldwater sitting atop the league standings. Craig, they're 10-1 overall, 2-0 in league play. St. Henry, Craig, I've seen St. Henry play this year. Very good team. They've got some great pitching. They hit the ball extremely hard. They're at 1-0 in the league, very early in the MAC standings, but 11-2 overall. In Fort Recovery, Craig, kind of one of the surprise teams in the MAC, I think, this year, doing very well, sitting at 10-1 overall. And the team, Craig, they're Minster. Started out the year 1-7. I think they're now 8-7. As a matter of fact, tonight they knocked off Convoy Crestview, who was actually ranked number 1 in the state, and last year was the at the state semifinals. So a big win for Minster tonight. So never count any of these teams out in the MAC. Versailles is good, Parkway's good. So anything can happen in baseball, and it will. So.
One team that's certainly good every year, like you just mentioned, is the Coldwater Cavaliers. We're happy to have their head coach live on the phone right now. Coach Harlamert, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks, Craig and Ken. I appreciate the invitation. Listened to you guys a lot here and there in the fall. I gave you some information last fall about Worth Brody Hoy on your show, so he was on there, and I'm glad I'm here too. Thanks a lot.
All right, well, listen, congrats on a great start to the season. I believe you're 10-1 right now overall. You're ranked number 1 in the new state coaches poll that came out this week. Life seems good. What's your thoughts on how things have started?
Well, once the weather finally broke here for us, getting our games played, and yes, a good start for us. We won 10 in a row after our first defeat. The Butler first game of the year, but it's just a matter of playing good baseball and having good players. One good thing, so.
All right, well, you've got a lot of nice players on your team, including Grant Mullenkamp. He's both pitching and hitting well. Mitch Haney's an all-MAC player from last year. The Bettinger kid's playing well. But one guy that's kind of standing out right now is junior Brody Hoyne. The last I checked, he was hitting around 600. I don't know if he's still hitting that, but talk about how well he's playing right now.
Well, you mentioned quite a few of our good players. We have 7 seniors, and 6 of those seniors, 4 are 3-year starters, including Grant Mullenkamp, Mitch Hine, Drew Otten, Mitch Shane here in center field, of course, Brody Hoyne, the junior electrifying athlete, 3-sport star. You're right, he's hitting right at 600. Just double-checked, he scored 19 runs in 11 games.
Wow.
12 stolen bases, 4 doubles. And if it wouldn't have been for him being so fast on 2 of those doubles, they're actually singles, and he was so fast he turned into a double, but it would have probably been a stolen anyway. So you get on base for us. He's in the 2-hole hitting for us right behind Mitch Hine, the 4-year starter leading off, has hit over 400, and right in front of Malavey Banninger, our big sophomore, last year All-State, All-League player. So you're in the middle of 2 great hitters and 2 guys who can run. So being Brody is the beneficiary of the guys around him in our program. So, yes, he's playing very well.
Coach, hi, this is Ken, and I appreciate you taking your time to be on our show tonight. It's hard to believe the tournament draw is coming up already on May 4th. As good as your team is playing right now, last year you finished with an overall record of 22-5. You went into the tournament draw as one of the top seeds, and you took on a Lima Central Catholic team that actually kind of gave you a surprise. So anything can happen in tournament time. What do the Cavaliers need to improve upon for the postseason run?
Well, I listened to your introduction, and you're right. Baseball is a sport that it's crazy. Little things happen in baseball that you really can't predict, and you really, a lot of times in baseball, one good player can dominate a game, and some breaks can happen. And last year we had a successful team, last successful year. We ran into LCCs, had a very good pitcher and a solid team around them. We weren't able to generate runs early and got behind. And, maybe a lack of experience. Again, those guys who were juniors last year, we had 2 seniors graduate. So, we were young, and hopefully that experience and then our summer success where we were runner-up to Defiance in the state acting tournament. So, again, we played 30-plus baseball games this past summer, with the exact same players. So we probably take those 30-plus, plus 11 now, a very experienced team. Hopefully experience helps. And I think it's just a matter of your team believing in that doesn't matter what happened yesterday or last year or tomorrow. You have to play the game today. And anybody in our league, as you mentioned, in our tournament run, is going to be a very, very tough team to play. I mean, we have our 13 teams in our sectional district. It's just an extraordinary group of teams in terms of Otto Glandorf, Van Buren, our arch rival St. Henry, Parkway. It's just not an easy one. LCC's back in there. So it's going to be tough to get that run, get out of our area. It's that same problem out of sports. You get out of the MAC, out of your district area tournament, you have a little bit of breathing room. So I think the key for us is just to keep playing every day. You really can't predict how it's going to go, and you got to go play. So we hope that we're ready to go in May, and that kind of starts today, tomorrow. So our goal.
Coach, let's take a step back. You and I actually go way back to the days of the Raider Classic here in Russia, some of your Coldwater tournaments, the Minster Invitational with youth baseball. The names on your team now I'm very familiar with. We played you guys back in the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, the 5th grade. Yeah. Tell me, the success you see at the high school level, Coldwater, Russia, Fort Loramie, Minster, Versailles, those teams all very successful at the high school level. You go to these youth tournaments, you see the same schools that are extremely very good in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade levels. How important is that youth program?
Well, you're right, Ken. We have gone way back, and by the way, I am a little younger than you are. So, but yeah, we've been going at it for a while. We've been back in, I know, like our current class right now. My son's a sophomore, and they started back when they were U6 and U7, all the way out through Russia in the Brazil tournament. And it doesn't matter what sport you play. Ken, you've been involved in sports before. If you're basketball, baseball, whatever, you have to play when you're younger. And I think that competitive edge helps you as you get older. And definitely is a benefit for us. I mean, we now, our park program is a lot for our kids in baseball, but now we have different travel teams. Those are U7 all the way up to our U14. It's a big benefit. The kids who play a lot and understand the game are going to be more successful when they get older. Those are the teams now we go up against at every game. They're just so skilled. They're fundamentally sound. And we play some teams, it's almost embarrassing to know that they're playing that baseball that poorly, and the things that those kids are being taught and doing is almost an embarrassment to the sport. And I've said it for years. I think baseball is probably, at the high school level, is probably the worst coached sport in Ohio. I mean, it's just some people just don't understand what they're doing, and to our benefit, we're playing them. We can beat them, but you're right. If you don't play at a young age and teach the kids the fundamentals, how to play the game, any game, the success is not going to follow them in high school. And I think that's the benefit to us. Way back with Luke Brunswick, who had tried our program for years, he always stressed the importance of fundamentals in our park system and kids playing the right way. And all the success has gone through Lou, through Gabby, through the Brunswick family, and now for me for 17 years, is we're able to continually reload because our kids understand how to play. And I think that's the difference, with the schools who do that. Like you mentioned, the Rushbies, the Minsters, the Versailles, all the Loramies, all the local schools who have that. And I think that's to our benefit.
Let's go back to your days at the University of Dayton. One of your teammates back then was Minster head coach Mike Wiss. You guys played college baseball. Tell us, for these high school kids, the ones that are very, blessed with good talent, what does it take to play college baseball today versus maybe, and how is it different from during your high school days?
Well, I mean, I think there are some differences. There's also the similarities of one, you have to have the skill and the desire to do it, and the drive, because, even back then, more so now, is the competitiveness of more and more players who are playing baseball and trying to get those aids, scholarship aids to make it. But the bottom line is you have to have the skill, the drive, and some luck, too. I mean, our area, really, we're not recruited as well as some of the city schools are. We have kids every year in our whole 2-3 county area who are very, very good aren't getting looked at enough because we're not playing the big summer tournaments. We're not, in much exposure. And I think that's one thing. And now is more kids can get exposure through the showcases, the camps, the different organizations now that are publicizing kids better. And I think that's helping them, get the chance to play. But the bottom line is you guys have the desire to just go to play. And, back with Mike Wiss, Ben Ernst, guys in our area, Mark Wiss, that went to play at UD and kind of established something. Back when we played in the 90s, we didn't have the money they have now, the food they have now. And if we kind of, maybe were the cornerstones of that success now, you go now at the university, it's all of the schools are great. The basic school is awesome. So I think we feel like we're a part of building that. And that was the reason that I kind of chose UD when I came out of high school. Was I always was a UD fan, and I loved UD as a basketball fan, and went there, got my degree to coach and teach, and then now you see the success of Dayton baseball, on the map a little bit. So we feel as our guys around here are a part of that building program. So.
Hey, Coach, one last question, and we'll let you go. Now, you've had a lot of good players there at Coldwater over the years, but one in particular was a pitcher you had back that graduated in 2010 by the name of Keith Wenning. I think a lot of people know him right now for being a heck of a quarterback over there at Ball State. Yeah. What do you remember about Keith, and what's your thoughts of him going in a couple weeks in this NFL draft?
Well, not only a pitcher, but probably Division I prototypical third baseman that could have played college baseball. But Keith Wenning is off the football field, off the baseball field, is a great person, a great role model for our young kids and a lot of kids. Just does the right thing, very respectful, and works hard. And a story that sticks out about Keith, he was a 4-year starter for us, and back then there was very few of them that played 4 years. Through Lou, through me now in my 17 years, he was like the second one. He was right behind Corey Klink, who was a sophomore, who had played the year before the freshman. And we're in our first practice outside after basketball, and it's cold. And we said, Keith, why don't you go with us? We're going to have BP on the big field. And so he says, sure, I'll go. He goes out there, and he starts hitting, and we're going, man, he can hit. Sure enough, he just probably hit better than anybody the first time outside as a true freshman, and going, wow, great job. So the next day comes around, practice, we're going, where's Wenning? Where's Keith? And he goes, who knows where he's at? So we go down and find him, and he goes, where you at, Keith? Well, no one told me I was going to stay for another day. He goes, dude, you hit better than anybody on our team. You ain't going anywhere. You're staying here. So sure enough, that first day turned into 4 great years for, all-state player in baseball for us. And of course, now his chances at after Ball State and the NFL. But a great kid, great work. Hopefully wishing the best. But again, just a great kid that came through our system. Great parents, like you have there in all our areas, that bring up kids and bring them to high school. They're well respected off the floor, off the field, and that to me is more important than what you might hopefully get to do in a few weeks. So, but all in all, great kids.
All right. Well, Coach, listen, that was great stuff. We sure appreciate you sharing some of your insight on the Coldwater program with us and some of your stories. I want to wish you best of luck the rest of the season, and thanks for joining us tonight on the show.
Well, thank you very much, fellows, and I think your show is doing great, and continue to have success. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Okay.
All right, that was the head coach of the Coldwater Cavaliers, Brian Harlamert. I do want to go back to the sound room real quick. Heavy D, I know you spent a few college days with this guy. Now that he's off the air, any good stories you can tell us about him?
Boy, what a flood of memories coming back listening to Coach Harlamert. And I always look forward to going to Coldwater with my son and playing against Coach Harlamert. He always brings a Class A team to the game. I had the opportunity when I was at school down at UD to live down the hall from Shelby County Player of the Year in 1989, Zeke Sanders. Jeff pitched for the Dayton Flyers, so ended up rooming with Jeff a couple years. That was quite an experience also, but anyhow, got to meet Brian Harlamert, got to meet Coach Mike Wiss, head coach of Minster, who I played against ball with, basketball and baseball over the years. Also a couple other standouts, Parkway Tony Osborne played for UD and joined the group down there. Also Ben Ernst from Minster was a year behind those guys, and they all ended up living in a house. Jeff's lived with me a couple years, and and I'm still trying to recover from that. But those guys all lived on a house on Stone Mill, and I'm not going to point a finger at anybody, but one night in the ghetto, and if you've seen the ghetto when it gets fired up, the house caught on fire. And I'm not saying it was Coach Harlamert or Coach Wiss or Ben Ernst or Tony Osborne, but the house caught on fire, and they put it out, and everybody was okay. But it's a good bunch. It's a good bunch down there.
We better just end the story at that, Heavy D.
Well, that's good stuff, Heavy D.
That is good stuff. Listen, Ken, about out of time here. We do have one more thing to get to, and that's that trivia question you asked me that pertained to Coach Harlamert. Why don't you give it to me again, and I'm going to check Twitter out for
Absolutely, Craig. Coach Harlamert, like we talked about, he's a University of Dayton Hall of Famer, Craig. He still holds a couple career records at the University of Dayton for baseball. Interestingly, Craig, he's actually second career home runs with 38 all-time at the University of Dayton. He's behind a gentleman by the name of Brooks Vogel. Where did Brooks Vogel graduate from? Minster, West Liberty Salem, Coldwater, or New Knoxville?
Okay, now I think you think you know what I think. You think I'm going to say West Liberty.
Absolutely.
And that's what I want to say.
You know Vogel's from West Liberty.
I want to say West Liberty, but my Twitter buddies here are telling me Coldwater, and I'm going to go back and check the telemetrics out. Guys, what do you got back there as far as answers? Help me out here a little bit.
We got Minster with a goose egg, West Liberty Salem at 5, Coldwater 1, New Knoxville 1.
Oh boy.
Ooh. Everybody knows the Vogels from West Liberty.
Okay.
Apparently.
Well, I'm gonna go against the I guess my Twitter followers here, and I'm going to go with West Liberty since that's the predominant answer on the Fish Report telemetrics. Let's go with West Liberty.
Well, Craig, you should have went with your Twitter followers again. The correct answer is Coldwater, which is interesting. So the top 2 home run hitters all time at the University of Dayton both graduated from Coldwater.
Wow, that's something else. I wouldn't have guessed that.
That's right.
All right, well, listen, that's going to do it for us tonight. I do want to say special thanks to Coach Turner for being on the show, as well as Coach Harlamert for coming on live. Ken and I and the crew, we were planning on taking next week off. However, just got an email today that we have a special guest that may be interviewed on this show. I'm not going to say who it is right now because we're still working things out, but I will tell you this. If we get this guy, it'll be the biggest interview we've ever had in 3 years here.
Absolutely. We're working on it.
So just pay attention to the Fish Report website during the week. As soon as we get confirmation on that, we'll let you know. Until then, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the Fish Report. 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 For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the Fish Report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the Fish Report, hanging at the Fish Report.